Yes, welcome to Ferrara. Welcome to the State of Plone Talk. Yeah, I wanted to start out with some community updates from the past year. Some of the biggest news is we've added 6 new Plone Foundation members. So that's Christine, Thomas, Fulvio, Rico Peca, Kim, and Stefania. So welcome. It's fantastic to have you. And I do want to make a pitch because every year we look at this list and we say, why weren't you on this before? I thought you already were. I'm sure there are many more of you out there that should be on the foundation membership list. Feel free to nominate yourself. Basically, we're looking for anyone and everyone who's had significant and or enduring contributions to the project and the community. And the other big news this year is that we've also added Zope to the Plone Foundation. I want to thank Matthew Wilkes. Are you here? Yes, he is. Okay. For handling the kind of machinations behind pulling them into the foundation. So that's going to help us keep that project not just alive, but protected. So because it's something that we desperately need to have around for the future. We've also added 35 new core contributors this year. And we funded 9 different events this year. 8 were sprints, and 1 was the Python Web Conference in Indiana. Yes, sorry, Ramon, I wasn't sure which country to put there. Yeah, I want to make a point that so the foundation has been fantastic at making sure they give money out to host community sprints. So if you're interested in having a bunch of Plone folks come to your hometown and drink all the beer you have and write all the code you need, it's a great way to build up your local community, to build up the worldwide Plone community, and really it's a fantastic learning experience. And there's even more money available if you can justify that your sprint is strategic, providing something for the future of Plone. And I also want to give a pitch that there are, like was said earlier, there are sprints this weekend, and those will cover all sorts of skill levels, so don't feel that you're too new or too naive about how things work to contribute, because those things are actually super useful as we work on testing interfaces and documentation as well. Yeah. So Sven gave me some updates about the automation and infrastructure team. So they had a sprint in Barcelona this year. And they really worked on, so this is the team that kind of manages all the services that Plone uses, the hosting for the website, the community.plone, and a number of other back-end systems, dis.plone.org, that sort of thing, that you definitely notice if they weren't there, but it's hard to remember or hard to tell where their domain is, but if it weren't there, you definitely notice it. So they spent quite a bit of time trying to work on simplifying their entire service infrastructure and rewriting the Ansible scripts to make it a lot more reusable and something that can be picked up by people who are part-time server admins. So they're looking to do about 2 to 3 sprints in the next year. And they are definitely looking for new people to help out. So they're they're looking for people with some experience, but you don't have to be an expert. As an ops guy, I can definitely tell you that the more you know, there's definitely a one-to-one correlation between expertise and opinions when it comes to DevOps. So maybe the newer folks might be a little more helpful. But if you've got ops folks at your company and you're looking to get them involved in some way, this would be a fantastic way to do that. As was mentioned earlier, Plone took part in the Summer of Code this year. We had 2 students. Alok was working on the Gatsby.js preview, and I believe he's here, right? Yes, in the back there. Thank you. And Karan was working on the Guillotina API evolution. And we do want to thank the Python Foundation for supporting us this year. We weren't added as, we didn't get in as a sponsoring group, but because we were able to get in under the Python Software Foundation's umbrella. And there's a new program from Google this year called the Season of Docs, and thanks to Paul's hard work, we were able to get into that as well. And this basically is matching up technical writers with open source projects to find a way to get them involved in contributing to open source. And so we have Chris that has been working with us and throughout this fall. And he's working to extend and reorganize the Volto documentation to really cater to a more diverse set of developers' experience levels and backgrounds. I do want to call out the training that we had. The past 2 years has been a definite upswing in the number of people attending trainings before the conferences. And I've been really pleased to see what's been happening with the training.plone.org site. So basically all who attended a training session before the conference this year? That's a great number of people. So all those training sessions are available for free on training.plone.org. If you want to go back and refer to those later, if you want to go back and take something you've missed, that's all available, which I think is really great. We've kind of produced this really great set of open source documentation around training. I'm sorry, I keep messing with this. So yeah, right now we have 17 different courses available on there, and yeah, I definitely recommend checking it out. And I also want to thank Steve McMahon. Steve has been, you might know him as Steve M from anywhere, but he's been doing our installers for years. He retired this year and is looking to really scale back the amount of work he does because he wants to spend time with his family. I don't know what that's like. And so, yeah, we are looking for someone to take over that position. You don't have to do it alone. We're looking for several someones, and he is more than happy to help in a transitional period. Okay, so let's get into the meat of things. I want to talk about Python 3. So the big news this year is the death of Python 2.7, which Plone has been using forever. The Python Foundation announced a final code freeze on January 1st of 2020, so coming up very quickly. There's going to be a final wrap-up release in mid-April, but that basically means that there are no new bug fixes or security issues fixed after January 1st. So it's a very important date for Plone. It's a matter of survival for us as a project to get off of Python 2.7 and into Python 3. And yeah, we can't continue to release on Python 2.7 if it's not receiving security patches, and you can't continue to deploy or sell it because of that. So there's been an incredible amount of work done to get Zope, our underlying application server, working to support both Python 2 and 3. That includes things like a complete rewrite of the restricted Python module, replacing the Z server with a WSGI based publisher. And that's been modified to act a lot more like Z server. There's no middleware required, has full support for publication events, exception views, and basically should be a fairly transparent switchover for us. And it has a refreshed Zope management interface, which, sure, it's based on Bootstrap, but don't get too excited because it still uses frames. And this will lead us into Python or Plone 5.2, which was released in July this year. The big change to that is that we added Python 3 support. So Plone is now has that taken care of. Philip tells me the majority of the major Plone add-ons have been migrated. There are still lots of smaller ones that are in progress or need some love, but I would definitely suggest checking out his talk this week, finding out more about what that process entails. Archetypes is now optional. It was deprecated in Plone 5.0, but really consider this your wake-up call. It will not work in Python 3. So if you're still using it, that's going to be one of your major roadblocks to moving forward. The migration process has been tested out extensively. It's been working really well for folks. Basically, it involves migrating your site to Plone 5.2 on Python 2.7, moving your archetypes content into Dexterity, making sure all your add-ons are Python 3 compatible, and then running a ZODB upgrade script that will go through and make the database changes necessary for it to be readable in Python 3. And then you can start Plone up using Python 3. And yeah, it's proven to be pretty straightforward. It's well documented, and yeah, it's been working very well so far. So I want to take a moment and say thank you. The Python 3 and Zope 4 effort is huge, but it really wasn't very visible. This was really a dangerous project for Plone. Taking too long on it would have meant that the rest of us and our clients wouldn't have had sufficient time to do the upgrade. Would have meant taking development resources away from other important development projects. And failing would have meant the outright death of Plone as a project. Getting to this point really reinforces that Plone is in it for the long term, and we aren't going away. So I want to call out Philip, Jens, and the folks at GoSept for all their hard work seeing this through. So can we give it? Yeah. All right, so the rest of Plone 5.2. So we're adding the REST API to Plone 5.2. Basically, this gives us a bring your own front end framework. So you can hook Plone 5.2 up to Gatsby, a native app, React.js, Angular, or whatever you want to build. It has the standard CRUD operations, create, read, update, and delete. But beyond that, we're also supporting things like breadcrumbs, navigation, workflow, commenting, control panels, and page layout. You know, the things that really make Plone strong, more than just a basic CMS. Plone 5.2 also adds some improvements to the navigation bar. We now have drop-down menus by default. They come right out of the box. They are mobile ready. There's been a lot of work to optimize these. Navigation has typically been one of the slower elements of the Plone interface. So they've fixed some caching issues, some indexing things to really make it a lot faster. And it's set up to be highly configurable. We've also rewritten the login process. So this was something that existed in the Portal Skins folder for quite some time. And when things live there, we can't actively test them. Because it's one of the most crucial things, it's the first thing you see when you go to your Plone site is trying to log in. Having that being not well tested was really dangerous for us. It was very easy for changes to sneak into that. Yeah. So we migrated this to browser views, put lots of hooks in place to make both the login and registration processes highly customizable. And the great thing it does for us on the back end is it removes the last remaining controller page templates, which really helps us clean out that old Portal Skins folder. We're looking for kind of the one way to do things, and so that helps us to remove that old methodology. We made some improvements to the theme as well, the Barceloneta. So we're removing the static resources out of CMF Plone and into a new package called plone.staticresources. This is basically something that we can release more often as changes come in, and doesn't tie bug fixes to the JavaScript, to the interface, to the full Plone release. It's something we can iterate quite a bit more. Removing the old resource registries, Portal JavaScript and Portal CSS, just getting a few more things out of the ZMI. And there are some fixes to the structural issues of the Barceloneta theme. So we're fixing the ordering of columns, putting the main first, then left and right in the HTML, just for scanning purposes, search engine crawling, that sort of thing. We're improving the styling options for mobile. So basically the main content displays first in mobile, and then the sidebar content. And if both portlet columns and sidebars are in use, it'll display side by side on small screens, left first on mobile, and to the left right of main content on larger screens. And we've also improved the footer portlets. So basically, currently adding portlets to the footer is messy and unordered. We now have a more doormat-like footer, which uses the bootstrap grid to give a much nicer layout. And we've integrated products redirection tool to facilitate URL management. So this gives us aliases and redirects. You can set those at the object level. There's a control panel that lets you manage those at the site-wide level, and there's a bulk upload as well. So that's Plone 5.2. I want to mention Guillotina as well. I'm not going to do them justice because I haven't worked with it quite as much. Guillotina was started as basically a reimagining of the Zope and Plone stack, and it's grown into something much, much more. Entirely separate project with a life of its own that we're glad to have still living under the Plone Foundation umbrella. It's really meant to be a framework first, and they're trying to make sure that it uses existing tooling. So instead of building our own, bring your own database, indexing, and tooling. And they want to keep it small, modular, and easy to get into, and basically a plug-and-play system based on the problems you're trying to solve. So version 5 has just been released. They're adding Postgres indexing and search, in-memory cache and pub/sub invalidation, Python 3.7 context variables, additional MyPy support, generic search query parsing, and JSON payload OpenAPI 3 validation. And I'll take your word on that. There's also Guillotina CMS, which, as the name implies, is adding CMS features on top of Guillotina. They're recently added through the web configuration of content type and workflow definitions, and support for Guillotina 5 and for Volto, which we'll get into in a little bit. Pastanaga is something we've been working on. Albert Casado has been building this for us. He's a UX designer, basically a reimagination of the entire CMS user experience. And he's looking at not just the look and feel. So this isn't just a theme. This is a reworking of the interactions we see in our sites. It's a top to bottom reworking of how Plone both looks and behaves. So he's been giving us a set of design guidelines for developers to follow as we build and improve Plone. And this is something I've been begging for years, is a design document that we can point to when we say, when somebody's creating a new control panel, when somebody's adding a new feature, we can point to this and say, no, it should work this way. And I think that really helps us have a common vision for the Plone interface as we move forward. It's designed to work well on both mobile and desktop. And he's been working to design a set of reusable UI components that we can use throughout the site. And one of the main focuses is making the current status and next steps obvious. So based on the coloring of buttons, the position of things on the page. And that brings us to Volto. Volto is an implementation of the Pastanaga UI built on the React.js stack. So, and this is really taking advantage of the flexibility of the REST API and creating a front end which does things in an industry standard way. For years, Plone has really focused on trying to make web development more Pythonic, and unfortunately, that's not a battle we're going to win. It's really time to admit that approach isn't going to catch on. So this is an attempt to redo things in a way that matches modern front-end development. And so this is what it looks like with the Pasanaga UI implemented on top of Plone using Volto. It's usable today. It installs in Plone 5.2. Volto hasn't reached 100% feature parity with Plone yet, but it's getting close. Things like control panels, content rules are still missing. I want to show you the Pasanaga editor. See if this starts. There we go. Okay. And so this is based on ideas taken from the Gutenberg, which is from WordPress and the Medium editors. And we're taking those ideas and we're working on something that really is meant to improve upon accessibility and usability and the user experience of editing. Simplified the editing toolbar dramatically, cutting it down to just the things we'll actually need when editing. And all this, for a long time, Plone has had a stance that inline editing is important, so that what you're seeing is what you get. So you're editing within the context of the page, not separately. And that's something we're really working to get back to with this. So we can add different blocks to the page. So this will add an image block here. And we can drag and drop to upload. We can find images within the site. So I'll just upload one here. And you'll notice on the right we have a sidebar that slides in to give us access to document settings and also the settings of the image block. And so we can do things like link to an existing page in the site. We can have properties on the image like alignment, which we'll do next. So we'll change this so it aligns left or right or full screen. And as you can see, we can drag and drop to reorder things on the page. There's a number of new blocks coming in that will allow us to do things like show content listings, show tables, videos, video embeds, and as well some layout blocks as well. Oops. And I just wanted to call out the experience of working with the user toolbar as it slides out here. Super straightforward. Everything is right in front of you, and you can immediately see where you need to be. And it's built to provide the same experience on top of mobile as well. The login works the same. Personal preferences, like we just saw earlier, are all available. We can modify document settings and personal settings here. And we can go in and actually make changes to the content as well. So if we'll go back to that same page and we'll do some edits. So we'll stick a new paragraph down here. And again, we have access to that same content toolbar, content styling toolbar. And yeah, we can save and it works just like that. So the goals of the Volto project are really to bring best-of-breed tooling to manage the front-end development. Saying, let's stop building our own tooling to do front-end, and let's find the things that actually are built to do front-end rather than rolling those ourselves. We're able to easily reuse existing libraries and tools rather than building our own. So if you need to add a slider, you don't need to install a Plone plugin to do that. You can use a number of them that are available through React. So because we're doing this, we get to tap into a much larger developer base, the front end developer base. And it's a lot easier to bring on new developers. We're really reducing the Plone learning curve by removing Plone from the learning curve, which is super awkward for me to get up here and say. I'll get into that a little bit more later, but yeah, so Timo mentioned that he's had sites where 95% of the customization work was all through the front end. And we're really, as we move Plone into this headless CMS world, we're really kind of getting to this point where, you know, people need to know that there's a back end that can do these things, but they don't need to know much more than that. We're expressly saying, here's exactly what we can provide you, and they can build upon that however they'd like, in whatever way they'd like. Customizing Vaulto, at the Sorrento Sprint this year, we had a great setup where we did a morning of training on things, Python 3 migration and Vaulto, and then spent the afternoon working on a sprint topic around that. And it was a really great setup. I enjoyed it. But it was super easy. I am not a front-end developer by any means, but it was really easy to pick up the process. Basically, we were running this create Vaulto app script that creates basically a new, it bootstraps your new front-end package, and it's basically a theming policy package would be in the Plone world. But it's extending instead of replacing Vaulto, so the underlying bits can get updated, and you don't have to worry about that as much. It uses a similar override style to JBot, the just a bunch of templates framework that we have in Plone. So if you want to override the logo, you create the path at components, theme, logo, and just drop your new SVG there. Or if you want to get into the logo template definition, Vaulto is using, like I said, the React stack. One of those bits is JSX. So we're combining the JavaScript and template bits of your page. So there's HTML in your JavaScript. Previously, this would have been a viewlet plus a page template plus a JavaScript file that needed to get integrated into a bundle. And this kind of just mushes that all into one. This is something that is super easy to pick up and is super familiar to folks who are used to doing front-end development. Vaulto is using the semantic UI framework to implement the Pastanaga UI. It's really helpful, and it makes the HTML really easy to read. And usually and uses the class styles or the class names as ways to inform the JavaScript, which is also super simple. It's super readable. Vaulto has been significantly faster than the existing front end because it only interacts with the REST API. There's no hitting the templating engine or any of that. It's very quick. One of the things. So I'll admit that when I get up here on stage and show these screencasts of the Plone interface, I at times will cut bits out so we don't have to sit here and watch it load. And one of the great things is with Vaulto, I don't have to do that. I actually need to slow it down at points so that I can talk over it, which is a weird and wonderful problem to have. Yeah, so it's significantly faster. It's only working with the REST API. It's using server-side rendering, so the first request is going to be a little larger for the client to download all the resources, but after that, the client takes over and does all the processing. So you're really distributing the processing load to the client, and which means you wind up needing fewer resources on the back end. Smaller machines, fewer ZOP clients. And because Plone and Guillotina CMS both implement a similar API, Vaulto currently works with both. Current status of Vaulto. Vaulto 4 was started at the Beethoven Sprint this summer. They worked on getting it up to speed with the Plone UI. It's near feature parity. Like I mentioned before, it's missing content rules and a few control panels, but those are coming. They worked on internationalization. Accessibility is in place, or they've set a high standard for what it'll meet. They've added automated testing to make sure that it meets that. One of the things we've seen this year is that the Gutenberg, there we go. The Gutenberg editor has seen a lot of complaints from the WordPress community about accessibility concerns, and we're right out of the gate saying that's not going to be a problem for us. So that's something I'm really proud of, and I think everyone should be. Yeah. And they're also working on adding some more advanced blocks. So in the demo you saw text and image and video. They're working on adding table blocks, like a collection one, so that you can integrate what would currently be a collection in your site that you can add as just part of your page, and also a slider block. Okay. Yeah. So I wanted to talk about. There used to be a slide in between here. Interesting. Okay. So I wanted to talk about a few different things that we're facing right now that Volto helps with. One of those is the coupled development. We've seen over the past few years, and I mentioned before that we've been reinventing the front end with a back end look, and it hasn't worked out really well for us. We've found that front-end development works, evolves at a much faster pace than we can as a back-end. Plone is about keeping your data safe, keeping the migrations in place, and basically what this is, what we're trying to do is really decouple the two, the front end from the back end, so that we can continue to release Plone the back end at a slower rate, where we can do it in a data safe manner, and we can release the front end at a much faster pace, so that we can keep up to date with current trends and security issues. So one of the problems we've had with, say, actually every major release of Plone is we've had some big rewrite of the front end to fix existing issues. But by the time we get that release out, most of those have been outdated for a while. So we're trying to find ways to get around that. And this new setup can really give us a way to fix that and give us essentially a continuous release process for the front end. Yeah, so that plays into the Plone 6 roadmap. Basically, what we have right now is the removal of archetypes in Python 2. Those have been announced for quite a while, so definitely time to get rid of those. And we're looking to add the Pastanaga UI and Volto into Plone. That brings in some challenges and open questions. Something that Alexander Lemy, the co-founder of Plone, wrote about in a blog post back in 2008 and has been debated hotly ever since. Basically says that with dexterity we can add fields and behaviors to the basic pages. So in that case, what is an event but a page that has a start and end date, or a news item that has a lead image, or a page that has a lead image? If a page can act like a folder, do we need folders or default pages for folders? Does making this change increase the flexibility of our layouts and reduce the learning curve, or is it creating back-end challenges that we don't need to take on? Timo is going to be talking about quite a bit about this on Thursday, I believe. So I definitely would recommend checking that out. It's going to be a hotly debated topic, I think. And the second question I run into is how many UIs do we support moving forward? We saw in Plone 4 we released the new Sunburst theme, and it took me a while to remember what it was even called because it's been so long. So we split the UI into basically the Sunburst theme and the classic theme, and we shipped with both. And that was problematic because the Sunburst theme was the new one and everybody liked it, and that's where they were putting all of their development efforts. And the classic one fell behind quite frequently. So with a new Volto front end, how much of the classic Plone UI do we keep around? Do we work to update that so that the problems we're seeing in it now are fixed, or do we dump all of our effort into getting a brand new front end instead? I talked about the content types. And the other thing I want to mention is something I've been thinking about a lot this past year is what really is Plone now? I mean, I'm getting up here and I'm saying we can remove Plone from so much of the equation, but that's that's a rough statement to make at this point in time on this stage. And we've really defined Plone in different ways throughout the years. It's been the mature open source Python CMS. We've often said that Plone is the community. I mean, from a foundation viewpoint, the Plone Foundation now encompasses the Plone CMS. It has Zope now. Guillotina and Volto are members. From a community viewpoint, it's the sprints, the conferences, and the collection of add-ons that we provide. And from a code viewpoint, it started out for most of the last 18 years. It's been really straightforward, where there was a backend that was Open CMF and there was a front end that was Plone. And it was, Plone was the skins layer that existed on top of Plone and grew from there. And now in Plone 5.2, we get the Plone API or the REST API. We can throw new things in front like Gatsby or a mobile app or Volto. And now we can even take out that Zope and CMF backend and stick in Guillotina and the Guillotina CMS and get essentially the same thing. And where I think Plone is right now is really highlighted in that API layer. It's essentially, the Plone is the API contract. It's a strongly held set of opinions about what makes a great CMS that we've developed over the last 18, 19 years. And the implementations have changed over time, but the values really haven't. That's things like security with advanced workflows and granular access control, traversal and content hierarchy, being able to build a wide range of sites for very different audiences, from a small one-person shop with limited technical background to a large enterprise sites with complex business practices and lots of custom features. Supporting a diverse ecosystem of add-on projects and a big focus on accessibility, usability, and internationalization. And so I think Plone really is the fact that as we grow and change, these are the things that we don't compromise on. The software may be different, but the kind of ethos of the project is still there. So, all right, thank you. I really appreciate the opportunity to stand up here and basically take credit for all of your hard work each year. Yeah, I'm 100% interested in hearing your opinions on some of the things I asked about today and brought up. Feel free to email me or at me on Twitter or whatever, or accost me in the hallway, because I really want to hear what the community pulse is on these things. So thanks.